You ever stop and like think about how much knowledge like humanity has lost? Not because we forgot it, but because it was destroyed, right? Imagine if somebody walked into the world's biggest hard drive today and deleted everything, every scientific discovery, every history book, every medical textbook, every blueprint, every piece of literature, thousands of years of human knowledge just gone, right? Now imagine that happening over 2,000 years ago, right? That's the mystery of the Library of Alexandria. People have been talking about this place for centuries. Some believe it contained hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Others think it held secrets that could have changed the course of history forever. Some even believe it contained knowledge that humanity has never recovered. But here's the real question. Did we actually lose centuries of human progress, or has the story of Library of Alexandria become bigger than reality? Let's talk about it. The story begins in ancient Egypt, not the Egypt of pyramid builders, but centuries later after the conquest of Alexander the Great. When Alexander founded the city of Alexandria, he wanted it to become one of the greatest cities on earth. After his death, one of his generals, Ptolemy, stole it from control of Egypt. His vision wasn't just to build another city. He wanted to build the intellectual capital of the world, a place where the smartest minds could gather, a place where every important book ever written could be collected. That dream became the Library of Alexandria. Think about that for a second. This wasn't just a room full of books. It was one of the first major attempts to collect all human knowledge in one place. Every scroll they could find, every poem, every philosophy, every scientific observation, and every mathematical discovery. If sailors arrived at Alexandria carrying books, officials were said to copy scrolls, right? The library often kept originals while returning copies to their owners. Whether every story about this practice is true is debated, but it shows how serious they were about preserving knowledge. The goal was simple: know everything. The library became part of a larger research institution known as the Museum. Imagine something like a modern university mixed with a research laboratory. Scholars lived there. They debated ideas, they experimented, they studied astronomy, medicine, mathematics, engineering, language, history. Some of the greatest thinkers in the ancient world either worked there or were connected to it. Imagine walking through halls filled with thousands upon thousands of handwritten scrolls. No internet, no computers, no printing presses. Every single document had to be copied by hand. Each scroll represented weeks or even months of work. Knowledge wasn't cheap. It was priceless. Right? One of the things that makes this place so fascinating is what may have been inside. We know it contained works by famous Greek philosophers, right? Historical records, epic poetry, scientific research, maps of the known world, mathematical texts, medical writings, but here's where the mystery begins, right? How many scrolls were actually there? Some ancient writers claim there were around 400,000 scrolls. Others said 700,000. Modern historians aren't sure those numbers are accurate. Even the real numbers was much smaller. It would still have been one of the greatest collections of knowledge ever assembled, right? Now imagine all of that disappearing. Whenever people talk about the Library of Alexandria, one question always comes up. Who destroyed it? The truth, right? We don't actually know. A lot of people grow up hearing that it was destroyed in one massive fire, but history is rarely that simple, right? One theory points to Julius Caesar. During fighting in Alexandria in 48 BCE, Caesar ordered ships in the harbor to be burned. The fire spread into parts of the city. Some ancient sources suggest that storehouses containing scrolls were damaged or destroyed. But many historians believe the main library may have survived that event, at least for a time. Another possibility is that the library slowly declined over generations. Wars, right? Political instability, economic problems, changing rulers, less funding, less maintenance. Knowledge isn't only lost through fire. Sometimes it's lost because people stop protecting it. There are also later accounts connecting destruction to religious conflict and late antiquity, but historians continue to debate how much of the library still existed by then. In other words, the Library of Alexandria may not have disappeared overnight. It may have faded away piece by piece over centuries, right? Now, here's the part that really makes people think, what exactly was lost? Come on. Some people imagine advanced technology, secret inventions, forgotten machines, even evidence of civilizations far older than we know today. The reality is, you simply don't know. There is no solid historical evidence that the library contained futuristic technology or hidden secrets beyond what we understand today. But that doesn't mean the loss wasn't enormous. Think about how many ancient books we know existed, but no longer survive. Many works are known only because later writers mention them, right? Imagine reading a review of a movie that no longer exists. That's what historians deal with all the time. Entire books, entire discoveries, right? Entire perspectives, gone forever. Not because they weren't valuable, because they were copied enough times to survive. Think about that. The Library of Alexandria reminds us of how fragile knowledge really is, right? Here's something else people often overlook. The library wasn't important because it had the answers. It was important because it encouraged questions. People from different cultures came together to debate ideas. Greek scholars, Egyptian scholars, visitors from across the Mediterranean and beyond. Knowledge grows when different perspectives meet. That's one of the reasons Alexandria became such an influential city. It wasn't just collecting information, it was creating new ideas. Yes. So today we have cloud storage, backups, digital libraries, artificial intelligence, right? Billions of documents online. Yet information can still disappear. Websites shut down. Files get corrupted. Formats become obsolete. History can still be erased if nobody chooses to preserve it, right? We all know that. The lessons of Alexandria isn't just about the ancient world, it's about us. Every generation decides what it saves and what it lets disappear. So, was the Library of Alexandria the greatest loss of knowledge in human history? Maybe. Maybe not. We'll probably never know exactly how many scrolls are there. We'll probably never know everything that was written inside those walls. But perhaps that's why its story continues to fascinate us. Because every missing scroll represents a question we'll never be able to answer. And maybe that's the real mystery. Not what the library contained, but what humanity could have become if every piece of that knowledge had survived.